The opposition has protested in front of the parliament whilst it was in session for 3 hours today, with collisions with the police occurring once again. Farmers, collectors and workers of agricultural and livestock products from all over the country were involved in the third protest against the VAT scheme as they poured milk in the streets as a sign of protest against the government's actions. A reduction in the disability allowance and the removal of caretaker status based on a new classification are just some of the points included in a new draft by the Health Ministry. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 3rd of April 2019. Good evening and thank you for tuning in to RTV Ora's English edition. My name is Alexandra, bringing you the only daily update of the local Albanian news translated into English. Today, the opposition closed its 8th protest for the collapse of Prime Minister Edi Rama by protesting for more than 3 hours in front of the Assembly Hall. Hundreds of Albanian opposition supporters clashed with police at the anti-government rally. 2 hours after the protest began, protesters attempted to force their way through the police barrier in front of the parliament as the session was in process. They called for the resignation of what they describe as a corrupt and inefficient cabinet and for early elections. For a few seconds, they broke police ranks as they tried to enter the building of the parliament where Prime Minister Edi Rama was speaking. Members of the Youth Forum of the Democratic Party handcuffed themselves in front of the parliament as their sign of protesting for the current government to step down. All protesters have banners with the same inscription, "Go." In the absence of the Democratic Party chair, Lulzim Basha, who was on a visit to Berlin today, the organisation of the protest was entrusted to youth who revealed numerous symbols against the government that was finalised with the burning of the Pyramid of Crime. They set up an installation, a carton pyramid, which according to them symbolises the Pyramid of Crime, and they burned it. On top of it, they had written the name of Prime Minister Edi Rama, while they also had written the main affairs linked to the current government, according to them. The installation was initially set up in front of the parliament, but then the protesters moved it to the pyramid, where they did the final action of burning it. Edi Rama, rebirth, vote-buying crime, drugs, oligarchs, money laundering, PPP towers, were all inscribed on the pyramid. The protest began before the Assembly and sometimes there were clashes with the police. Prime Minister Edi Rama made it clear during the plenary session that the opposition MPs will not be allowed to return to the parliament anymore, as he excluded the possibility of snap elections. Whether or not, if there were snap elections, such an action cannot be defined by blackmail, threat or no negotiation. Zero. This was a part of the way how the internal strategies were built. Speaking outside of the parliament door where hundreds of citizens were demanding his removal from government, Rama said that the opposition MPs betrayed their people and their voters, so they cannot be part of the parliament by violating the law, and as such they will stay out until the new elections of 2021. Rama excluded the possibility of introducing in the Assembly the MPs who burned the parliamentary mandates. Those who left abandoned and violated the rights of those who represented will not return here through an extra-legal way and no kind of dialogue that leads to shopping. They can make propaganda, but not with blocking and blackmailing methods. They are blocking the economy and the image of Albania and its integration. This will not happen. They betrayed their people and now are out of parliament. They cannot come back here, underlined Rama. Meanwhile, during the parliamentary session, the Democratic Party MP, Rudina Haidari, also spoke. She urged the majority to decide on the Electoral Reform Commission after the formation of the parliamentary groups. By distancing both from the majority and the former opposition to the Assembly, Haidari accused the parties of communicating with codes and organising meetings abroad. I understand the codes with each other very well, and you know very well that you take meetings outside of Albania and discuss what will happen, how it will happen, and to whom you will satisfy the pleasures. But I am not here to be the facade of anybody. I came here with principles, and I will continue to fight for my principles. I want another system. Let's open the way for citizens to choose their representatives, said Rudina Haidari. At the close of the protest, the Democratic Party chair, Edi Paloka, said that Rama's departure day as Prime Minister is close. Today, the protest was directed by students. Albania is first a city of the students. The United States Department called Albania a drug, money laundering and crime centre where organised crime meets for distribution in Europe and further abroad to the United States. That's the reason why we are here. We will protest until he is removed. I assure you that the day when the Prime Minister, who does not represent any honest Albanians, will be removed is very close. Very soon you will see him leave. We will be at the square to protest. We came here to end not only the Parliament, but a whole corrupt system. All opposition parties will be together until this government is removed, said Edi Paloka. The protest concluded at the Blue headquarters with the national anthem. Farmers poured milk on the road and covered the streets of Lushna with fresh agricultural produce in a protest sign after a negative response was given by the Ministry of Finance, who said that the VAT scheme will not change. They are now being assessed with a VAT rate of 6%. For the farmers, this means to continue to produce would cause them to go bankrupt, in contradiction to the government's decision. With their banners and loud voices, they also raised the issue of the price of oil and subsidies, in addition to the problem with VAT. Farmers, collectors and processors from south to north marched from the roundabout of Savras to the roundabout of Plasmas, blocking the main road connecting Lushna to Fier. The delay in opening the new building of the Law and Economic Faculty in Škoda caused the students to break the door and forcefully enter the premises. The lessons were foreseen to begin on the 1st of April, but 2 days after this deadline, a group of students chose this method to enter into the premises, where they are expected to attend the learning process. Inside the new premises, a debate ensued with the Dean of Luigi Gurakuchi University, Adem Bekteshi. He said they will be responsible for damaging common property, while students demanded accountability for the unkept promise. The police are investigating the current case and the perpetrators are at risk of being prosecuted. Meanwhile, university directors say that the new building will not be opened because the power network line does not withstand the load and a new one has to be built. The International Monetary Fund considers it incorrect to include small business in the VAT scheme. In a recent report, it is noted that lowering the VAT threshold for businesses from 5 to 2 million did not affect the revenue growth in the budget. Even according to the International Monetary Fund, this change has complicated the work of the tax administration and has increased the administrative costs of small business. As a result of the change, around 13,000 businesses were involved in the VAT scheme that opposed this decision and even organised a series of protests, but were not taken into account by the Albanian government. The change was argued by the government as necessary in part of the struggle against the informality of the country. The report also seeks to find a solution to the delays of VAT refunds for businesses. According to the data of the International Monetary Fund, until October last year, the overdue obligations for this item amounted to 14.4 billion lek. The disability benefit for blind persons will be decreased. The decision is outlined in a draft law compiled by the Ministry of Health, reducing current incomes for people with disabilities. Thus, while the first group of blind persons had a disability payment of about 118,000 lek, this draft foresees that the payment will be reduced to 105,000 lek, while others will receive just 84,000 lek. Currently, blind persons will receive a disability payment and retirement pension. According to the head of the Blind Association, Ariane Huso, the new draft will consider one of the payments as income for the individual, as such eliminating the alternative payment. Among other things, there will also be changes as to who is determined as a caretaker in relation to blind people, where in some cases the classification of caretaker will be removed if the individual is only present to care for the disabled part-time. Huso requests that this draft be corrected. Furthermore, adults with disabled children will receive only 75% of the previously allocated disability pension amount. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join us again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of RTV Ora, thank you and good night.